I have a bit of a bone to pick with the promise of modern technology today. I really do. Because for the last decade, we have been sold this very specific bill of goods.
Oh, the digital utopia pitch.
Exactly. The pitch was simple. It was, we are going to give you more data, real-time dashboards, and we'll put a supercomputer in your pocket. And the result,
Yeah.
you will be faster, smarter, and this is the kicker, more relaxed.
Right, the dream where the machines do all the heavy lifting and we just get to sit back and sip our coffee.
But here is the paradox that I really can't stop thinking about. If you go out and talk to the people who are actually running the world, I mean field operations, the people managing fleets of technicians or scheduling repairs, keeping the power grid running.
They definitely do not feel more relaxed.
They don't. In fact, if you ask them, they will tell you that the operational day feels heavier than it did 20 years ago. It feels way more stressful. So the question to kick off this deep dive is, if we have all these amazing tools, why are we all so tired?
It's the great irony of digital transformation, really. We promised efficiency, but in a lot of cases, what we actually delivered was just exhaustion.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. We've got a white paper from Dusk FSM that just dropped this month, February 2026. It has this title that almost sounds like a Zen koan. It's called AI for Field Operations, Efficiency Without Complexity.
I'd say title.
It hooked me right away because it argues that the way we've been using AI is entirely backwards. We've been using it to add things, right? More data, more alerts. But this source argues the true goal of AI should actually be subtraction.
Which is a fascinating pivot, because we are so conditioned to believe that more data automatically equals better decisions.
Right.
But this research challenges that premise hard. It suggests that adding artificial intelligence often accidentally creates more work for humans. And we need a completely different design philosophy to fix that.
Let's start with the villain of this story. The source calls it the complexity trap. Now, when I hear complexity, I naturally imagine a desk covered in papers, phones ringing off the hook, just total chaos. But the paper makes a point of saying complexity isn't chaos.
No, it's not. And that's a really crucial distinction to make. Modern field operations are actually hyper-organized. They're completely digitized. The problem isn't a lack of order at all. It's the sheer density of the connections.
The interconnectedness of it all.
Exactly. Think about it this way. 20 years ago, let's say you have a technician named Steve, and he's running late for a job. What happens?
Well, 20 years ago, the dispatcher probably just calls Steve on a radio or a flip phone. Says, hey, Steve, where are you? And he says, I'm 10 minutes out. Done.
Right. It was a very simple, closed loop between two human beings. Now, fast forward to today. Steve is late. What happens now?
I assume the system knows he's late before he even does.
It does. But watch the ripple effect. The GPS triggers a late arrival event. That event triggers an SLA warning on the dispatcher's dashboard because he's missing the contract window.
Oh, wow.
Then that triggers an automated email to the customer. It might even trigger a billing adjustment in the finance system. And meanwhile, the dynamic scheduling engine is frantically trying to reroute the rest of his entire day.
So one guy hitting a patch of traffic sets off alarms in literally 5 different departments.
Everything is connected to everything else. And this leads to the core concept the white paper introduces, which is decision density.
Decision density. I really like that term. It sounds heavy.
It is incredibly heavy. Every time you integrate a new system, say connecting your CRM to your field service platform, you are technically improving visibility. You can see more.
Which we're told is a good thing.
Right. But you are also increasing the number of variables a human has to consider before making a single move. A scheduler isn't just dispatching anymore. They are simultaneously interpreting capacity, skills, travel time, contract SLAs, job complexity.
And probably even technician well-being at this point.
Exactly. It's overwhelming.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here. Isn't that context a good thing? Isn't having all that information better than just flying blind?
Context is good, yes. But having a human being process that context in real time, every 3 minutes, all day long, that is a nightmare.
Yeah, I can see that.
The paper points out that digital transformation solved visibility. We can see everything now. But it absolutely did not solve coordination.
So we basically built a panic room with windows everywhere.
Essentially, yes. When you add intelligence, like a system that pings you every time a metric dips slightly, without redesigning how the actual decisions are made, you aren't helping. You're just amplifying the cognitive load. You're giving the human more homework.
The source lists some symptoms of this complexity trap that I think are going to sound painfully familiar to a lot of you listening. One of them is the heavy reliance on the super user.
Ah, yes. The Brenda factor.
Right. Every single company seems to have a Brenda. She's the only one who knows how to actually run the schedule because she knows which of the 500 alerts to ignore and which ones actually matter.
That is the classic sign of a broken system. If your operation depends on institutional memory, on Brenda knowing the specific quirks of the algorithm, you are deep in the complexity trap.
Because what happens when Brenda goes on vacation?
Everything falls apart. You have teams spending more time coordinating, talking about the work, messaging each other about the work, than actually executing the work.
So if the problem is that we have too much visibility without enough actual help, what is the solution here? The white paper draws this really sharp line between visibility and stability. And I want to dig into that because visibility is almost always sold as the ultimate benefit.
It is. And look, visibility is necessary, but it isn't sufficient on its own. Most AI tools today are built to inform.
Informing sounds polite.
It sounds polite, but let's look at what it actually feels like in practice. An informing AI is basically a backseat driver. It flags a late technician. It identifies a capacity risk for next Tuesday.
Yeah.
It alerts you that you're about to breach a contract.
Okay, I see. It happily points out all the potholes, but it refuses to grab the wheel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just hands the problem right back to the human. And he says, here's a complicated problem I found. Good luck solving it.
Huh.
That is visibility. Stability, on the other hand, is about narrowing.
Narrowing.
Yes. Instead of just saying, Steve is late, a stabilizing system says, Steve is late, and here are the only two other technicians who have the right parts, the right skills, and the time to take his next job. Option A or option B.
Oh, wow. That is a massive difference in mental energy.
Massive. You've gone from an open-ended crisis to a simple, multiple-choice question. You have effectively reduced the cognitive load. The white paper has this quote that I absolutely love.
I think I know the one. Efficiency without complexity is not a feature. It is a design choice.
That's the one. So powerful.
It really is. It means it's not about the algorithm being smarter math-wise. It's about the interface being kinder to the human brain.
Precisely. The goal isn't to create systems that appear smarter to the buyer in a demo. It's to design systems that make the work feel clearer to the actual user.
So how do we actually build that? Because I assume you can't just flip a switch in the software labeled "Make it simple." The Dusk FSM paper lays out a blueprint they call the 4 Principles of Practical AI Design. Let's walk through these because they seem to fly in the face of how a lot of enterprise software is built right now.
They really do. But these principles come from observing real teams under pressure, not just coding in a vacuum.
Okay, principle number 1 is embedded, not layered. What does
Right.
layered mean in this context?
Layered is the status quo for most software. Layered AI is when the insights live on a totally separate dashboard. So I'm doing my scheduling in one window, but to see the smart recommendations or the analytics, I have to Alt-Tab over 2 different screens or open up a Power BI report.
The dreaded Alt-Tab. That doesn't seem like a big deal though, does it? Just switching a tab.
It is a huge deal for workflow. Every time a planner has to leave their immediate context to check a recommendation, friction increases. They lose their train of thought. And better design means the suggestion appears right there, inside the job ticket, inside the daily schedule view. It lives where the work is actually happening.
So don't make me hunt for the help. That makes total sense, but I guess it's pretty rare. Moving to principle number 2. Transparent, not opaque. This addresses the whole black box problem, right?
This is huge for field operations. These are high-stakes environments. If a system tells a dispatcher, hey, assign this critical job to Sarah, but it doesn't say why,
The dispatcher is going to hesitate because they might be thinking, wait, Sarah lives 20 miles away. That's stupid.
exactly, they override it immediately. They will always trust their gut over the machine because the machine isn't explaining its logic. But if the system says, assign this to Sarah because even though she's further away, she has the specific certification required for this medical device, and we know she has the right parts on her truck.
Suddenly, the dispatcher completely trusts it.
Transparency builds trust. If the logic is hidden, humans will always default to their own intuition, and your expensive AI just becomes a paperweight.
You really have to show your work. Principle number 3 is preventive, not reactive.
This is the massive shift from firefighting to fire prevention. Most systems today are totally reactive. They log an escalation. Hey, this customer is angry.
Which is way too late. The customer is already yelling at someone.
Far too late. Preventive AI looks at the schedule before it's even finalized. It acts almost like a time traveler. It says, hey, You are about to promise a 2 p.m. arrival to this customer, but based on historical traffic patterns on Fridays, there's a 90% chance you will miss that. Offer a 4 p.m. slot instead.
Oh, so it stops the overcommitment before the promise is even made to the customer?
Exactly. Reactive systems just create coordination work. You have to send apology emails, make rescheduling calls. Preventive systems eliminate that work entirely. It's the difference between mopping the floor and actually fixing the leak.
I love that analogy. And finally, principle number 4. Assistive, not autonomous. This one is super interesting because I feel like the sci-fi dream we are always sold is full autonomy. We want the robots to do it all. But this source says no.
Not in field operations. The real world is just too messy. A technician might know that a certain building has a tricky loading dock that isn't on any map. A planner might know that a client is going through a corporate merger and is extra sensitive right now. AI simply cannot capture all that human nuance.
So the goal isn't to replace human judgment at all.
No, the goal is to act as a co-pilot. The source uses the phrase narrow the runway. The AI does the heavy math, it filters out the noise, and presents the best viable options. But the human makes a final call. It respects the human's authority while removing the mental drudgery.
Narrowing the runway, that's a great image. It helps you land the plane safely, but you are still the one flying it.
Exactly. It's about empowerment, not replacement.
Okay, so those are the 4 principles. But I imagine not every company is there yet. The white paper actually includes an AI maturity model to help companies figure out where they stand today. And looking at this, I feel like a lot of people are going to find themselves stuck right in the middle.
That is incredibly common. Let's just walk through the stages quickly. Stage 1 is manual coordination. Spreadsheets, phone calls, whiteboards.
The classic chaos phase. Although, to be fair, for a local team of 3 people, that probably works totally fine.
It does, but it absolutely doesn't scale. Then stage 2 is basic automation. You've digitized things, you have a platform, you get basic notifications. This is where most companies were maybe 5 years ago.
And then comes stage 3. And reading the source, this really seems to be the danger zone. They call it optimization engines. Now, I have to play devil's advocate again here. Optimization sounds inherently good. Who doesn't want to be optimized?
This is where things get really tricky. In stage 3, you have these powerful algorithms solving for very specific metrics. Usually it's efficiency or travel time. So the system routes everyone to minimize fuel costs by 5%.
Sounds great for the CFO, right?
Yeah, it sounds fantastic on paper.
But the algorithm is completely blind to the human toll. It ignores work-life balance. It ignores the fact that Technician A just had 5 incredibly difficult, heavy installs in a row and is physically burning out. So the schedule you get is mathematically perfect, but humanly impossible.
So the computer wins the math game, but the human loses.
And then the human quits.
Right.
Or the work quality drops drastically. Or they just start ignoring the schedule altogether, and that leads to manual corrections by the dispatcher, which defeats the entire purpose of buying the software. That is the optimization trap. You have a smart system creating dumb days.
So how do we actually get out of that trap? That brings us to stage 4, right? Yes. Stage 4 is contextual AI. This is where the system starts looking at the whole picture. It accounts for skills, workload, real-time changes, and human context. It compresses the decision space. This is where we see those 4 principles we talked about actually in action, narrowing options rather than just ruthlessly optimizing a single route.
And stage 5, the holy grail of this model.
Predictive conflict prevention. This is the future. This is where the system aligns your sales promises with operational capacity before a deal is even signed.
Whoa, wait, so the salesperson literally cannot sell a check that the field team can't cash.
That is the dream. Imagine a system that operates so quietly in the background that you don't even notice it's there. You just notice that you have significantly fewer escalations to deal with.
That actually leads us perfectly into the practical application section of the paper. The source breaks this down into 3 core areas: scheduling, workflow, and integration. Let's talk scheduling first. We've touched on it, but the source emphasizes a major shift from optimization to stability.
Right. Think of a highly optimized schedule as a beautiful glass sculpture. It is intricate, it's gorgeous, and perfectly formed. Every single minute is accounted for to save money. But one tiny bump,
One flat tire,
one missing part, and the whole thing shatters.
and then you're spending your entire afternoon picking up the pieces.
Exactly. A stable schedule, on the other hand, is resilient. It has breathing room built in. Good AI helps build schedules that can absorb disruption rather than shattering at the first sign of trouble. It's the difference between running a sprint and running a marathon.
And anyone in field ops will tell you every single day is a marathon. What about workflow? The source talks about moving from automation to continuity.
This is all about administrative drag. How much time does a field supervisor spend just tracing down updates? Did you finish that job? Did you fill out the safety form? Where's the site photo?
That is basically 90% of a manager's job today. Just chasing information?
It really shouldn't be. AI should handle that continuity. It should trigger the next step in the process automatically. It should only bug the human supervisor if there is an actual exception or a problem.
So the supervisor transforms from a chaser of information to an overseer of quality.
Exactly. They can finally focus on training, on quality control, on building customer relationships, all the human stuff, because the AI is handling the basic traffic flow of the data.
And the third pillar here is integration, moving from data sync to operational alignment. Now, alignment is one of those buzzwords I hear constantly. What does it actually mean in this context?
This goes right back to that stage 5 concept we touched on, the age-old battle between sales and operations.
The oldest war in business history.
It really is. Often, your sales systems, like your CRM and your field service systems, are totally separate silos. Sales sells a premium repair package with a 4-hour response time guarantee because they really want to close the deal. But the field team has absolutely zero capacity for that. They're booked solid for the next 3 days. But the systems just sync the data, so the field team gets the order and panics.
And chaos ensues. The field team hates the sales team, and the customer hates everyone because nobody actually showed up in 4 hours.
Operational alignment means the AI checks the real field capacity during the sales process. It prevents the misalignment before it starts. It actually tells the salesperson in the CRM, we cannot support a 4-hour SLA today. You have to offer next-day service. It's not just moving data between databases. It's aligning reality.
It seems like the recurring theme throughout this entire paper is moving upstream, fixing the problem before it becomes a fire.
Always. Reactive work is the most expensive work you can do, both in terms of actual money and human stress. Preventive work is where real efficiency lives.
So let's look to the future. The white paper has a section at the end on human-centered AI, and it makes a pretty bold prediction. It says, the future of AI isn't about more features, it's about restraint. That feels so counterintuitive for a tech company to put in writing. Usually the pitch is always, look at all these buttons.
I love this section so much. We were leaving the era of, look what this tech can do, and we're entering the era of, look what this tech allows you to do. The most advanced AI of the future will actually be the least visible.
An invisible AI.
Yes. It operates in the background to reduce noise. If the AI is working perfectly, you shouldn't be talking about the AI at all. You should just be talking about how smooth your day was.
It's like a good referee in a sports game. If you don't notice them, it means they had a great game.
That is the perfect analogy. We want AI to be the invisible referee that keeps the game flowing cleanly, not the star player trying to hog the ball. The result is that teams talk way less about the technology and more about the work itself.
And the source mentions that platforms like Dusk FSM are really pivoting heavily to this model. It seems to be a real shift in the industry mindset.
It is. They are acknowledging that we have reached peak saturation with dashboards. We really don't need another graph. We need a simpler day. Embedding intelligence to simplify decisions, not multiply them, is becoming the new competitive advantage.
So bringing it all back home, we started out with the complexity trap, the idea that more tech has led to heavier days because of this concept of decision density.
Right, the notification fatigue, the constant pinging from every direction.
And we talked about the solution, moving from simple visibility to seeing the problems to stability, which is narrowing the solution.
And doing it through those 4 design principles: embedded, transparent, preventive, and assistive.
The ultimate takeaway for me here is really about how we measure success. The source says the measure of AI success isn't how much data it processes, but how much cognitive load it removes from the humans running the show.
That's it. That is the only metric that matters now. Not how many features does it have, but how much brain power did we save today? Because that brain power is what you desperately need for the complex human problems that no machine can solve. You need that brain power for empathy, for creativity, for leadership. You can't spend it all on scheduling logic.
It's a very compelling argument. It makes me look at my own tools a lot differently. I'm literally looking at my phone right now and wondering whose side it's actually on.
It's a healthy question to ask, and I think that's the perfect challenge for you listening today.
What's the challenge?
Look at the tools you use every single day. Really look at them. Do they act like a frantic assistant, just shouting about every single problem that pops up? Or do they act like a calm guide, offering you the two best solutions and letting you choose?
That's the core difference between visibility and stability right there.
It is. And the answer to that question tells you everything you need to know about where your operation is heading.
A frantic assistant or a calm guide, I definitely know which one I'd prefer. Thank you for walking us through this deep dive. It has given me a whole new vocabulary for talking about efficiency.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
It's a topic that is only going to get more important as the tech evolves.
Absolutely. And to everyone listening, thanks for diving in with us. Take a hard look at those tools today. We'll catch you on the next one.